Hey, housekeeper, sort this out for me. As soon as Ethan gets home, he throws his bag at me and barks orders. Lately, I've lost the will to resist and just pick up the bag from the floor. Scattered papers and a planner are spread across the floor. Maybe he eats this chocolate when he's hungry. I pick them up and put them back in the bag. But among them, there's one document that stands out. It's a divorce application. And Ethan has already signed his part. In that moment, something inside me crumbles. I can divorce him. Be free from this man. With that thought, I suddenly felt lighter. I quickly grab a pen from the drawer and sign the divorce application. My name is Sophia. I'm 35 years old. I work as an office assistant at an IT company. Luckily, I'm blessed with great colleagues and a pleasant work environment, which makes my life relatively stress-free. After quitting my first job out of college due to stress from interpersonal relationships, my current company feels like a haven. Unless something drastic happens, I plan to stay here. I've been thinking more and more about that. But I have my own troubles. I can't seem to get a boyfriend, let alone get married. It's not that I haven't had chances to meet men. Company dinners, parties I've been invited to by friends, I've had many opportunities to interact with men. Most of my friends are married with kids. Yet why can't I find someone? Is there something fundamentally wrong with me? Every time another friend announces their marriage, I'm plagued with headaches from overthinking. But then, my life took a turn. It happened at a certain company dinner. As I was sipping my drink, a man took a seat beside me. That was Ethan, who would become my husband. Sophia, right? Huh? How do you know my name? Ethan had approached me out of the blue. We worked in different departments and had never spoken. I knew his name and that he joined the company before me, but that was about it. Sorry for suddenly talking to you, he said, noticing my surprise. He explained that he introduced himself because he'd often noticed me alone at company events and during breaks. I hadn't thought of myself as being alone, but that's probably how it seemed to others. After that, Ethan and I, a bit tipsy, started chatting. At the end of the dinner, we exchanged contact information just because. From that day, Ethan and I began talking more at work. Not during work, but during breaks and after hours. If we happened to meet outside, we'd go to the office together. As we continued this routine, we naturally grew closer. We started going out for meals more often and eventually began dating. Before we knew it, our relationship became known around the office. My colleagues were quite surprised to hear I was dating Ethan, as they hadn't expected it. Ethan remained the same even after we started dating, always kind and cheerful. I felt comfortable around him and found myself increasingly drawn to him. Ethan seemed happier too, which made me feel good. About 6 months into our relationship, Ethan shared something important with me. Hey, I actually have a kid. A child? Ethan had been married before, but divorced due to personality differences. He had custody and was raising the child alone. I've been thinking about marrying you, Sophia. I wanted to tell you before it was too late. Sorry for springing this on you. I was definitely surprised, but I was happy that Ethan was considering marriage with me, and that he shared his past and his child's existence with me. Thank you for telling me, I thanked Ethan. After that, I began to meet Ethan's child more frequently. His name is Benjamin. I was worried he might reject me because he's 14, but Benjamin accepted me right away. A year later, Ethan and I got married. It was a euphoria I had never experienced before, the joy of being with the person I loved. I was glad I hadn't rejected Ethan at that dinner, but my happiness was short-lived. Ethan's true nature began to reveal itself after marriage. I quit my job after discussing it with Ethan. It was a fun workplace, but I wasn't too attached to it. I decided to start fresh as a housewife. Though my duties were limited to household chores and shopping, having no particular hobbies, I spent my day without much engagement. But then I found a hobby. It was painting. I started with pencil drawings out of curiosity and gradually got into watercolors. Soon my room was filled with watercolor paints, palettes, and brushes. This might have been when Ethan started acting strange, or rather, when he began showing his true colors. The first sign was how he left laundry around. "Hey, can you put the laundry over here?" "Oh, sorry about that." We hadn't lived together before marriage, so it wasn't surprising to see such careless behavior. I'm not perfect either. In fact, I was happy that Ethan, who had always seemed so serious, was showing this side of himself. It felt like we were truly a married couple. But no matter how much I asked him to tidy up his laundry, Ethan never seemed to try. Instead, "I'm tired from work, Sophia. You can handle it," he began to say. But once I started doing everything, Ethan left everything to me. "Is dinner ready?" That day, too, as soon as he got home, he demanded dinner. "I told you, Benjamin is coming home late, so dinner will be when he gets back." "I didn't hear anything about that. Are you sure you told me?" "I did tell you." "No, I definitely didn't hear it." My words were in vain, and Ethan got in a bad mood. Dealing with Ethan when he's upset is challenging. He would ignore me if I tried talking to him, and become rough with things, stomping around the house. His behavior was stressing me out. I thought it wasn't right to get upset over small things. Initially, I thought maybe he was just tired and tried to be patient. But as days passed, my patience wore thin, and I began to voice my opinions more. "Hey, I asked you not to leave your laundry lying around." "If you're going to complain, Sophia, why don't you clean it up? I'm tired from working every day, unlike you, a housewife who does nothing." "What? How can you say that?" "Without me earning, there would be no food or house, remember?" "I quit my job because we decided together, Ethan." "Oh, yeah, shut up." "We just couldn't communicate. Am I saying something wrong? Am I saying something that deserves this anger?" Every time I argued with Ethan, I doubted my senses. I heard from Ethan that his divorce with his ex-wife was due to personality differences, but now I'm not so sure. Maybe the problem was with Ethan, and his ex-wife initiated the divorce. But could I really bring up divorce myself? Having finally gotten married and with no job, I was scared of being single again. And I worried about Benjamin. The idea of him going through another divorce and remarriage of his dad was distressing. For now, Ethan doesn't raise his voice in front of Benjamin, which is a relief. It's expected of a parent, but I'm thankful he maintains a normal demeanor in front of Benjamin. I just thought I had to endure everything. It's my fault for ending up with such a man. Gradually, these thoughts began to occupy my mind. About 6 months into the marriage, Ethan started coming home very late. Although there were occasional late nights at his company, it was unusual for him to stay out until midnight. Yet Ethan would text, "I'll be late tonight. Might be past 12 a.m. He did inform me, but what was he doing so late at night? Could he be cheating, even though we just got married? These thoughts crossed my mind often, but I had no evidence or confirmation. And he didn't seem like he was cheating. One reason was that Ethan started bringing colleagues home. Their names were Liam and Grace. Liam was very refreshing, a true image of a fine young man. Grace was beautiful and fun to talk to, though not close in age. Both were from Ethan's department, so I didn't know them before. Initially, I was unsure how to interact when they first visited, but as they came over more, we became friendlier. "Sophia, let me help you with the dishes." "No, it's all right." "No, please let me help. You prepared the meal after all." "Well, if you insist, I appreciate the help." Grace helped wash the dishes and glasses and assisted with preparing drinks, while Liam kept a tipsy Ethan company. I realized that if Liam and Grace weren't there, I'd have to prepare everything and clean up alone, which honestly felt like a hassle. "Ethan, you're too drunk. Don't trouble Sophia." "It's okay. Sophia's fine." I could hear their conversation from the kitchen. Given his unusual attitude, I thought Ethan didn't care about me. But then Grace said something surprising. "When someone can say things like that, it means they have a good relationship, right?" "Huh?" "Ethan always talks about Sophia, how delicious yesterday's dinner was, how he feels at peace at home because of you." I was shocked to hear Ethan talk like this. "Ethan said that?" "Yes, he talks about home every day. It sounds so nice. I hope to have a wonderful family like Ethan's someday." "Is that so?" I felt complicated. My home life was far from enjoyable. I didn't want anyone to aspire to have a family like mine, but considering Ethan's position at work, I didn't reveal the truth and just quietly listened to Grace. If one didn't know the inside story, it would seem like a happy family. Benjamin joined the conversation, creating a pleasant atmosphere. Liam and Grace were kind to Benjamin. "Benjamin's 14, right?" "Yes, he's 14. "Wow, so young." "Liam, you're pretty young yourself." I enjoyed listening to their conversations. The days Liam and Grace visited were much more relaxing for me. Initially, I had difficulty accepting Liam and Grace when Ethan brought them home without notice, but now I was glad I hadn't turned them away. However, Ethan's attitude didn't change, even when Liam and Grace were around. It was good that he didn't get into a bad mood in front of his colleagues and after drinking. "Sophia really does nothing at all." Ethan, drunk, began to show his true colors. Liam and Grace seemed to take it as a joke. "Ethan, what are you joking about? Sophia's a wonderful person, right, Grace?" "Yeah, I really admire her." "Stop admiring her. You'll be miserable in the future." "What are you saying now? Ethan, you're drunk again." Liam and Grace thought Ethan was mocking me because he was drunk. They laughed it off, probably because they usually heard good things about me at work. But I knew they meant no harm. I was used to Ethan's demeaning remarks and could only respond with a quiet smile. Several years later, time flies and Benjamin went off to college. After 4 years, he graduated and started a job at a local company renting a house near ours. Initially, I suggested he could live with us, but Benjamin insisted on experiencing living alone. I respected his decision and accepted it. Ethan's behavior remained unchanged. By then he had been promoted to a department head and was busier than ever. He sighed more and was careless with things, but his attitude towards me hadn't become harsher. I thought he might be using me as an outlet for his accumulated stress. As usual, he often brought Liam and Grace over for drinks and started coming home past 12 a.m. more frequently. I figured Ethan must be relieving his stress in his own way. Some more years passed, and I got a call from Benjamin. "Mom, I'm getting married." "Married? Congratulations!" I felt like time had flown by since I first met him at 14. He said he had already talked to Ethan, who was happy about it. From that day, we started preparing for the wedding and had family meetings. Ethan was busy, so I did most of the planning. We decided to invite Liam and Grace, who had been a great help. They both attended the wedding. They even took care of a drunken Ethan, which was embarrassing for me at such an event. However, they managed it well, especially Grace, who stayed by Ethan's side the entire time. She was by Ethan's side the whole time, never leaving him. A bit too close, perhaps, but she seemed slightly drunk too. I didn't think much of it and just watched Ethan and Grace. Hours later, after a successful wedding, Ethan and I went home. He was quite drunk and slept in the back while I drove. When we arrived home and entered the living room, Ethan suddenly threw his bag at me. "Ouch, what are you doing?" I turned to Ethan, who was laughing. "Hey, housekeeper, sort this out." Seeing the papers on the floor, I, exhausted, picked up the bag without any retort. Papers and a planner were scattered around. Maybe he eats this chocolate when he's hungry. I gathered them and put them back in the bag. But among them, there was one out-of-place document. A divorce application, already signed by Ethan. What's this? Seeing the divorce papers, time seemed to stop. But then I collected myself. Ethan was asleep, drunk. Yes. Why was I continuing this marriage with Ethan? Benjamin had a job and was getting married. There was no need to keep living this way for the sake of the family. Realizing this, something inside me crumbled. Is this Ethan's way of saying we should sort out our relationship? I couldn't stop myself. I took a pen from the drawer, signed the divorce papers, and left the house with only the essentials. I filed for divorce immediately. My divorce from Ethan was finalized without issue. Although I had been treated badly, I never imagined he actually wanted a divorce to the extent of preparing divorce papers. All my efforts until now felt futile. I headed to a nearby hotel and decided to stay there for a while. After checking in, I entered my room. Sitting on the chair, Exhaustion overwhelmed me. I fell asleep without even taking a shower. The next morning, I was awoken by my mobile phone ringing. Looking at the screen, Ethan's name was displayed. "Hey, Sophia, where are you?" "I'm at a motel." "Why are you at a motel? Come back home." "Come back? We're not a couple anymore." "Huh?" He didn't expect me to file the divorce papers. "Not a couple? Sophia, you can't be serious." "I submitted the divorce papers I found in your bag. You wanted a divorce, right? Well, now you have it." "That divorce application wasn't meant for..." "Then what was it for?" He said nothing in response. There was nothing else to think but that he wanted a divorce. "You're not saying anything. Got it. I'll come pick up my stuff later." I hung up the phone, but the calls didn't stop. Even while I was looking for a room and a job, the phone kept ringing. Just when I thought it had stopped, Benjamin called. I answered the call immediately, thinking Ethan might have told Benjamin something. "Benjamin, what's up?" "Mom, Dad told me you're not home." "Not home as in, Dad and I are divorced. Didn't you know?" "Divorced?" He seemed unable to accept the fact that I filed for divorce. "Why so suddenly?" "It was Dad. Maybe we should talk in person. Can you come home today?" I decided to invite Benjamin home to discuss the divorce with him and Ethan. Benjamin agreed, and we met after his work and went home. Ethan seemed quite shocked that I returned without notice. "Sophia, why did you suddenly leave home?" I sat down on the sofa. Naturally, both Ethan and Benjamin looked bewildered. "Yeah, why the sudden divorce?" "Because Dad prepared those divorce papers." "What? Dad did?" Benjamin looked at Ethan in surprise. Ethan appeared uneasy. "Well, that was not serious." "I saw your signature, Ethan. It looked serious to me." I pointed out and Ethan looked down. I had evidence that the divorce papers were serious. "Hey, you were having an affair with Grace, right?" "What?" I knew Ethan was having an affair with Grace. The reason was simple. The closeness between Ethan and Grace and their excessive physical contact was noticeable. I used to think it was just because they were drunk, but I couldn't stop thinking about them. I thought it was possible. While Ethan was asleep, I checked his mobile phone. There were intimate texts from Grace, and even photos of him at Grace's place. I quickly took pictures of these pieces of evidence with my phone. There were even photos of them in bed. Undeniable evidence. "An affair? That's not true." "There's no point trying to lie. I have proof." "Proof? When did you..." "When Ethan was drunk and asleep." "You went through my phone while I was sleeping?" "It was convenient that you fall asleep so quickly when drunk." Ethan looked frustrated upon hearing this, but soon began making excuses. "But really, I didn't mean to file for divorce. Grace told me to write it. I never wanted to divorce Sophia." "Really? You didn't want to divorce me because I'm a housekeeper who does everything and a wife who obeys you when you're angry?" "I really didn't intend to divorce you." Ethan kept insisting he never wanted the divorce. I thought maybe he wouldn't want to let go of someone who always obeyed him, but that doesn't matter now. Adults should be able to do some things by themselves. No matter what Ethan says, the fact that he called his wife a housekeeper doesn't change. People reveal their true selves when drunk. Even if you had no intention of divorcing, signing those papers signifies that intention. "What? Didn't you know that? You're quite the embarrassment. I have proof of your affair and I'll be seeking compensation from both you and Grace in the divorce proceedings." "Compensation in a divorce trial?" "Of course. Don't think you can escape this. I'll consult with a lawyer and make sure you face the consequences." He probably never imagined it would come to this. Maybe none of this would have happened if he hadn't thrown his bag at me after the wedding. Throwing a bag at someone, let alone cheating, is wrong. I realized how actions and words can drastically change someone's life. Later, I decided to move in with Benjamin at his suggestion. I was worried about being a burden, but he said, "That's not true. My wife likes you, and she would be happy to have you live with us." Gratefully, I accepted Benjamin's offer. I wouldn't return to this house, so with Benjamin's help, I packed my belongings. Clothes, watercolor painting supplies, I stuffed them into cases and headed to Benjamin's house. Ethan kept saying, "Please reconsider the divorce. I'm begging you." But what was the point now? Cheating already proved he had no feelings for me. I was truly glad to be divorced from Ethan. Later, I consulted a lawyer. Apparently, I could claim much more in compensation than I thought, given the length of our marriage. We summoned Ethan and Grace to the law office to confirm the affair. An affair? Grace seemed confused and initially denied it, but she admitted the truth once the evidence was presented. If she was going to admit it, she should have done so from the start. I had thought of Grace as a genuinely nice person, so learning about her affair and her attempts to hide it was quite shocking. By this point, Ethan seemed to have given up on everything. "I'm truly sorry. I will pay the compensation ordered in the divorce proceedings." If only he had regretted his actions before doing anything foolish. Eventually, both Ethan and Grace agreed to pay the settlement, and our lawyer explained the amount to them. In the end, Ethan and Grace formally apologized to me. Whether they were truly remorseful or just going through the motions was something only they knew. I hoped this experience would make them reflect on their actions and how much they had hurt me. After the meeting, I returned home. Benjamin's wife greeted me with a smile, which lighted some of my fatigue. Since the divorce, I started a part-time job near Benjamin's house. Despite any initial apprehensions, my colleagues were so kind that my worries soon faded. I got along well with Benjamin and his wife. Lately, cooking with his wife has become a joy. With the divorce finalized and the compensation received, I thought the issue with Ethan was settled. However, a chance encounter with Liam at the supermarket stirred up new troubles. Liam, apparently just off work, noticed me and happily approached. "Hello, long time no see." "Liam, it's been a while." I exchanged pleasantries with Liam and chatted briefly about recent happenings, work, and what we planned for dinner. But something seemed off about Liam. He didn't have his usual cheerfulness and appeared somewhat anxious. Curiosity got the better of me, and I casually asked, "Liam, you seem a bit down. Everything okay?" "Oh, well." His hesitation confirmed my suspicion. As I waited for Liam to speak, he slowly began. "I recently broke up with my girlfriend." "Oh, really?" "Yeah, she was Grace, the one I was always with." "Grace? But Grace was—" I hesitated mid-sentence, but naturally, Liam picked up on it. "Did something happen?" Prompted by this question, I told him about Grace and Ethan leading up to the divorce. Liam was surprised. "You divorced?" he said. "Yes, a little while ago." "That's why I haven't been invited to Ethan's house recently. He still talks about his family at work all the time." "Really?" I couldn't help but be perplexed by Ethan's actions. I felt overwhelmed and instinctively held my head in my hands right there in the supermarket. I had a feeling that Ethan and Grace were in that kind of relationship. They seemed unusually close. "So, Liam, you thought the same?" "Yes, well." Liam looked down awkwardly, but then looked up. "I can't forgive Grace and Ethan. I'll report this to my supervisor at work," he said. I was surprised to learn that Liam had noticed Ethan and Grace's relationship. I thought I was the only one who had. We parted ways that day with Liam promising to let me know what happened later. A few weeks later, I received a text from Liam. He must have told his supervisor about Ethan and Grace. Curious about the outcome, I immediately checked the message. Apparently, Ethan and Grace both received pay cuts. Ethan was also demoted and continued working. Liam's disclosure led to Ethan and Grace's affair becoming widely known at the company, and they were now viewed coldly by their colleagues. Ethan remained at the company, but Grace resigned, finding it difficult to stay after the incident. I was surprised Ethan didn't resign, but he probably realized he wouldn't find a stable job elsewhere. I wonder how long he can keep this up. A year has passed since my divorce and since Liam contacted me. I hear Ethan is still at the company. Both Ethan and Grace continue to send me payments, so they seem to be managing somehow. Liam was promoted for his hard work. Ethan, who once looked after Liam, is now in an inverted position due to his own actions. I'm curious about how he feels about this, which might reflect poorly on me. Currently, I'm living with Benjamin's family and working part-time at the supermarket. Benjamin, his wife, and I get along very well. Today I'm planning to bake sweets with Benjamin's wife. a kind workplace, a kind family. I'm grateful for this environment and continue to live my days with appreciation.